Hi, this is my presentation on the body and sexuality. I want to start by giving an overview of my project. I'll be analyzing the work of 3 different artists from 2 different time periods to compare and contrast how they portray the human body in their work and how that plays into historical and cultural contexts. So my first artist is Keith Haring. He began as an underground artist in the 1970s, and originally he drew on empty advertisements in subway stations, but as the decades gave way to the 80s, he became more widely known. As seen, his work here is a distinct style of depicting the body. Through the use of lines and bright colors, he depicts movement within the piece. There's a joyful, almost dance-like quality to all of his figures. None of them have faces, which is to suggest an anonymity. The identity is pushed out of the way to give way for a communal action between each individual. It's also important to notice that even though many of the bodies are connected to each other in interesting ways, the piece doesn't give off any erotic vibes. On the contrary, this connection is depicted as almost commonplace. This is to say that even though Haring understands the prevalence of sex within the LGBT community, he makes the argument that it shouldn't be its defining feature. Rather, he's stating that simply being connected to each other in unconventional ways should be recognized and celebrated. This comes at the start of the AIDS epidemic, where thousands of people lost their lives. Because of this, Haring also carries the call of binding together and staying strong for each other. His painting has a strong sense of optimism that community will prevail and help carry the LGBT community through not only the academic, but the hate it suffered because of it. During Haring's life, he also tried to help aspire others to the community he was depicting. His impact reached across the world, and on one occasion, he worked with children by painting something for them before asking them to contribute something of their own and continue his canvas. In this way, his work not only became a physical embodiment of this idea. Notice his work isn't filled with any breathtaking technique. Rather, it's simple in a way that others can mimic him in their own ways, with their own ideas. And that gives me to the second artist, someone completely different, an artist named Zanele Muholi from South Africa. Her take on body within sexual contrast couldn't be more different than Keith Haring's. As a photographer, she isn't able to create the same movement, vibrance, and color, so she takes it to the other extreme by portraying a secret intimacy and passion expressed by Black lesbian women as seen in this photo. The second frame, created by what I can only assume is a keyhole, depicts the secret nature of expressing yourself as queer and the love you might have for another woman. Her art focuses on empowering perhaps the most oppressed people, Black lesbian women. History didn't look favorably on such a status. Being a citizen of South Africa, you were considered less than if you were Black. Being a woman in that community, you were expected to listen and respect your husband. And then lastly, being a lesbian means that in these 2 communities, you were still considered other, unnatural because of your attraction to other women. She attempts to empower each of these defining features. Notice in the second image how it's completely overcome by the color black. This color gives the photo a powerful presence that's accentuated through a subject's intense gaze. She's staring straight at you, and you, as the viewer, are forced to see her as she sees you. And lastly, she has no shirt. Her body's exposed without shame. She's clearly displaying the fact that she's a woman with a power similar to expression of being Black. All these themes play together to give power to a very specific community that, because of their bodies and sexuality, have been outcasted in the past in more ways than one. And my final artist here is Kent Monkman, also a present-day artist. As part of the Cree Native American community, the themes of his art hone in on the atrocities the colonizers committed to his indigenous people. He references art from the American Western era, seen by the first painting, and which glorifies the expansion through depicting beautiful, seemingly empty landscapes. But in Monkman's painting, the erotic transgender Native American woman has taken the position of power in the painting from the white man. They are seen in this image. The painter is capturing, claiming all the visible land by painting it. Now notice that she's barely wearing any clothing. Monkman chose this to magnify her sexuality and highlight the contrast between her male figure and female gender. It shows her pride in the bodies and who they are. So in conclusion, each artist used their own methods and their own themes to provide a power to the LGBTQ community with their expressions of their own selves through depiction of their body.